Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cartel Files. My name is Adrian, and my job is to simplify laser design for you so you can start building your next project quicker. In this episode, we're going to dive into designing something like this. It is a Christmas tree table ornament made out of 3mm acrylic or plywood. And we're going to look at how we can design this very quickly using Autodesk Fusion 360. So before we jump into the project, please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. As always, it helps us grow and keep creating new free content for you every week. So let's jump into it. So as I mentioned, this is a table ornament. So it's meant to sit on a table. You can see that the pieces all sort of join together through a slot that everything gets fit down into. If I just turn the base off and turn one of the tree sides off, you can see there's also a slit made into the tree so that piece A will slide into piece B. And I'll show you how we achieve that. And then both of those two pieces then slide down into the base, creating this sort of cross pattern, and it'll just sit on your table just like that. So let's jump straight into it and see how I design this. The software that I'm using is Autodesk Fusion 360. I think it's the simplest system to use, but if you're more comfortable with something else, go ahead and use that instead. So first thing we want to do is we want to come up to this option up here, create sketch. All right, we want to click on that. And then you've got this little symbol that comes up, okay? And if you notice in the top right hand corner, you have like a little box that shows you where the front, the top, the sides are. And we want to make sure that we're working on the front side. So that's where you see you've got a blue line and then a red line perpendicular to that. Okay, so we want to work on this front surface. So click on that square that represents front, and you can just confirm that by looking up in the right hand corner up here. Make sure that says front. Perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to start off with a line in the middle coming from this origin point here. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to design one half of the tree, and then we're going to mirror it to just save us some time in terms of design time. So let's create a line. We do that by pressing L on the keyboard, or you can come up here and you can click the line tool. Okay, click on the origin point at the bottom here and pull up a line, and you can see it will automatically give us some measurements. So it's, you know, as I drag my line, that'll give me my measurements, or I can override it and just type in 150 millimeters and press enter. Now this creates a line that's 150 millimeters tall. And what we want to do now is make the branches of the tree come off to the right hand side of this line. So what I like to do is we go up to create in the top here, and we choose this option here called point. Okay, click on point. And now this allows me to drop a couple different points along the or on this surface here, and we can use them later on to connect them with some arcs. So what I'm going to do is I've got a 150 millimeter tall tree, and I want sort of three branches that come off it. So I'm going to come down sort of a little bit further for the first branch. So maybe to this second box of lines, and just draw or place a point sort of around here. Doesn't have to be exact, just whatever you feel looks right. So about that far away from the line. I then want to come down maybe another one set of boxes, so sort of in this sort of region, and choose a point around here. And then on the last line, we can come out a little bit further, but maybe not so far. Maybe something like that. Okay, and it's totally up to you how you want it to look, but something like that would work. We want to click on create again, come down to arc and choose the 3-point arc tool. See that option right there? So we want to click on that, and then we want to click on that top point at the top of the vertical line, and then go to our first point that we dropped on the canvas. Click on that, and now you can see I can make an arc that is constrained by those 2 points. So I want to give it a bit of a curve, maybe something like that. Okay, and then what I want to do is choose a point sort of inwards, but down from this point. So inwards and down, maybe something like this point here. And we want to give that a bit of a curve as well. Now that we've chosen that point, click on there and click on that second point that we've already placed. And we want to give that a bit of a curve as well. And as you can see, it's starting to give us the shape of our tree. So as we zoom in, we want to choose a spot that's inwards and down from where that point just was. Give that a bit of a curve, and then go down to our third point, do the same. Come back in and down, maybe something like this. And then finally, we just want to bring a line in to sort of, sort of a couple millimeters away from that line, and then down to finish the trunk of the tree. So I'm just going to choose that line tool, top left, click on that line, or click on that point, pull out a line to maybe round about there, come down, and then across. And that should give you a nice filled in blue colored tree, as you see there, or half a tree. And now what we want to do is we want to flip that along this vertical line. So that's going to be our axis in which we flip our design. So if you want to make any modifications to the design, do it now before we mirror it, because if you change anything afterwards, it may not copy exactly over to the mirror. But I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose the option here called mirror. Okay, and it's going to give you a new box, the mirror box here. And you'll see it has objects and then mirror line. So for objects, I want to choose this line, this line, this line, this line, this line, this, and that bottom line there. Okay, so the outline of that tree. And then I want to click on the option mirror line over here, and then choose that vertical line that we started off with. And now when I hit OK, you can see our design has been mirrored. Okay, and we can start working with that. So press Finish Sketch in the top right, the green tick box. And now what we want to do, because it's just a sketch at the moment, we want to extrude this sketch, or basically give it some thickness, and that's going to match the thickness of the material that we're working with. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to be using 3mm acrylic or 3mm plywood. So I want to extrude this sketch so that it has the thickness of 3mm. Perfect. So press E on your keyboard, or you can choose this option up here, extrude, and you want to click on both halves of your design. Now, if you have a look, right now the direction is set to one side. Okay, so if I was to type in 3mm, it's going to take this surface and extrude it 3mm backwards. Okay, but what I want to do is make sure that we are working right on the origin line. So you can see sort of this is the origin, and we're only extruding towards sort of towards the y-axis, and we don't want that. We want it to be symmetrical, both positive and negative of that that origin point. And it's important for the next step when we add a new new portion of the tree at 90-degree angle to make sure that it's all on the same axis. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using the one side direction, I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose symmetric. All right, so the direction is set to symmetric, and instead of 3 millimeters now, it needs to be 1.5, or half the thickness of the material, and it's going to extrude half the thickness in the positive direction and half the thickness in the negative direction. Once you've done that, hit enter, and now you can see we've got our design nice and ready to go. So if I turn that origin point back on, you'll be able to see that the thickness of the material is both positive and negative of that, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now what we can do is we need to copy this. So we can go over to our bodies on the left-hand side here. And before we start playing around with anything, I might just rename this body. And I'm going to rename it to Tree Side A, for example. Now what I can do is right-hand click and press copy. And then we can just right-hand click the bodies folder and press paste to create a copy of that. All right, so now you may have an issue like this. It does happen from time to time where your origin point from where you can move your part is not set to the origin point of the design. So if that does happen, you can set this pivot by clicking Set Pivot button. And then I want to come down to the bottom middle of the design and set our pivot point to that position there. Okay, now that means, and also come in and click Done here. Now that means if I move the part, it's going to be relative to the bottom section, which is where our origin is. All right, so now I just want to rotate by using this handle 90 degrees and press enter. And now we've made a second side of the tree, and we're going to call this side B. Okay, so now we have tree side A and tree side B, and that just helps us in a little bit to keep track of everything. And sometimes what I like to do is I like to change the color of each of the different components just to help visually keep track of the design. So what I do is I press A on the keyboard. That brings up the appearance tab. I want to choose two colors out of the list, so red and green, and I want to drag and drop those two colors onto my design. Now that helps me just visually keep track of the design and what I'm doing. Perfect. Now the last component that we need to create is that base. So what I want to do is come down to the base here, zoom in on that cross, and press C on my keyboard. And that allows me to create a sketch, a circle, and I want to click on the base here. You could also click on this origin square. Doesn't matter, it's all in the same plane. If you click on that, then we can choose this origin point where we want to start the circle. And once you've clicked, you can drag out a circle, and we want it to be about 50 millimeters in diameter. Hit enter, and then press finish sketch. Then lastly, what we want to do is press E for extrude, or again, come up to this option in the top left, and we want to extrude at the thickness of the material that we're working with, which is 3 millimeters. Type in 3. And by default, Fusion will think that you're trying to cut away the material at the bottom of the tree. But what we want to do is actually come down and choose the option New Body. Okay. Once you've done that, you can press OK. And now we've created a new body, which we can then work with to cut the slots into it to make it work with the design. All right, perfect. So now we'll just quickly rename the body that we just created. We're going to call that base. And if I press A on the keyboard, I can now give it a different color so we can easily keep track of everything. Perfect. So now what we got to do is actually create the slots in each of the different components in order for them to all slot in together and work perfectly. So right now, if I turn the tree sides off, you can see there's no cutouts in that bottom circle. And if I turn one of the tree slides on, you'll see there's no slots cut into it either, to allow the two pieces to slide and lock into each other. So that's what we're going to do now. So the first thing we'll do is we'll cut in that cross into the base. So what I want to do is just turn one of the tree sides off. So I'll disable tree side A. And then what I can do is I can come up to this option here called combine. Okay, so once I click that, it's going to say, it's going to tell me that I need to select the target body. And the target is the body that we're going to remove or cut away a portion of it from. So the target is going to be the base, and then the tool is going to be this tree section here. Click on that. We then want to make sure that the cut option is selected. So we're going to remove material using the tool body. And we want to keep the tools, right? We want to keep that tree section. So we hit, we make sure that that's ticked, and then we can press OK. And now if I turn the tree off, you'll see that there's a slot cut out, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to do. Now what we need to do is do the same for tree side A, so for the green piece. So we go back to combine. The target body is that base. The tool body is the tree, and we want to make sure that keep tools is selected and we are cutting. Hit OK. And now if I turn that off, you can see there's a nice cross cut out of the base, which perfectly fits those two pieces of the tree. Perfect. So now basically the base is finished. We can turn that off and we can start working on creating a split in the two sides of the tree to allow it to slide together. And what I'm going to do is actually, a little bit tricky to understand, but hopefully while we are doing it all, it makes a bit of sense to you. So what we're going to do is we want to create a sketch again. So we're going to come up here and create a sketch. And we're going to make sure that we are selecting the top surface. So this square here. Again, we can check the right-hand corner to make sure that it says top. Click on that. And then what we want to do is create a rectangle that is the thickness of our material in both width and height. So the way we do that is we come up to create, we go down to rectangle, and we choose the center rectangle. You can see that option there, center rectangle. Then we want to come down and we want to click on this origin point, and we want to create a rectangle that is 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters. For my material thickness, that's what I'm going to be using. If you're using thicker or thinner material, obviously adjust it accordingly. Now that we've made this box, we then need to extrude it to the height of the tree. So we can just press Finish Sketch, click on Extrude, or use E as your shortcut on your keyboard. And we want to extrude this up to 150 millimeters. And actually what I'd like to do is go a little bit further than that. So maybe 155, just because the design comes to a point and we want to make sure that all the pieces of the top of the point are completely removed. So 155 millimeters, hit enter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and choose this option called offset plane. So we click on that and we want to click on the base of this rectangle. Okay, and we want to create a plane that is roughly halfway, or actually it needs to be exactly halfway up the height of the tree section. So it's going to be negative 150 millimeters, which is the top of the tree. And then we're going to divide that by 2, which is 75 millimeters. Hit enter. Okay, so now you can see that we've created this plane which basically cuts this rectangle in half. So what we want to do now is split this body in two pieces based on this plane that we just created. So we come up to this option called split body, and we want to click on the body we want to split, and then the splitting tool is going to be this offset plane that we created. Hit OK and turn our construction plane off, and now you'll see that there's a top and a bottom portion of this rectangle, and we're going to use that to make sure that we cut two different sections out of the trees. So we can turn tree side A on, and we're going to basically do the same thing that we did before, where we combine the two to basically delete the section that we don't need, or cut it away, I should say. So if we click on the combine tool again, the target body will now be the tree portion, and the tool body will be that top piece of the rectangle. Okay, so I just turned the bottom piece off, okay, because we don't need it in this step. And we can untick the keep tools because we don't need this rectangle once we've finished it. So hit OK. And now you can see it's made a nice slit out of the top of that, that tree section. And we can turn it off and turn the other tree section on. And on this section, we want to cut out the bottom section. So we turn that bottom rectangle back on. We click combine. Our target body will be the red tree section, and the tool body will be that bottom rectangle there. Okay, make sure keep tools is off, and we are doing a cut operation, and hit OK. And now you can see it's cut the bottom of this this piece of the tree, and in the green section we have the top section cut out. So now if I turn both of them on, click on this and press move, you can kind of see how this would work. Oops, sorry. Tree side A, move, and you'll see how this would work. We move this down. So basically there's a slit at the bottom of this piece and a slit at the top of this piece. So as we push them together, those two slits will allow the bottom piece to slide through the top piece until they meet in the middle. And then we are in business. Our design is finished. Then this piece, once they've been pushed together, then gets pushed into that base piece, and we have a nice Christmas ornament ready to go. So I hope you learned a little bit about designing in 3D and how we can design something like this very quickly using Autodesk Fusion 360. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you learnt something new, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and please press subscribe so we can keep growing this channel and keep giving you brand new content every week. If you like this design, it'll be uploaded to cartelfiles.com. There'll be a link in the description below. Thank you.